Welcome back, romance lovers. This is part 2 of our captivating romance audiobook series. If you missed the drama, passion, and heart-stopping moments of part 1, don't worry, I've got you covered. Just click the link in the description or comments to catch up before diving into this next chapter. Trust me, you don't want to miss a single moment of this epic love story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts below. Chapter 7. Silver and Shadows. Sergeant Marcus Reed had hunted supernatural predators for 15 years. At 43, his face bore the evidence of those years, a jagged scar running from left temple to jawline, eyes that had witnessed horrors most humans never imagined, and the perpetual shadow of stubble on a jaw that rarely relaxed enough for a proper shave. The team surrounding the Cohen estate moved with practiced precision, 12 men and women in tactical gear that appeared military but belonged to no recognized human government. Their weapons, sleek rifles with silver alloy ammunition, dart guns loaded with wolfsbane extract, and an assortment of blades treated with substances that prevented supernatural healing, represented generations of specialized knowledge passed through hunter families. "Perimeter secured, sir," Lieutenant Vasquez reported through the tactical comm system, her voice steady despite the adrenaline Reed knew coursed through every hunter approaching a high-value target. "Team Alpha in position at the east boundary. Team Beta covering the forest line. Surveillance confirms multiple shifters inside the main house." Reed nodded, his gaze never leaving the elegant mansion visible through his enhanced binoculars. The Cohen pack. One of the oldest, most powerful werewolf bloodlines on the East Coast. Territorial alphas who maintain the fiction of wealthy human family, while secretly controlling vast supernatural holdings. "Maintain distance until signal," he instructed. "Observation only. We need confirmation on the Gourmet Omega and her condition before proceeding." "Sir," Vasquez's voice held a note of confusion. "I thought Operation Silver Crown authorized direct intervention upon confirmation of the Cohen-Blackwood alliance. Our intel suggests that alliance was formalized this morning." Reed's mouth tightened. Vasquez was relatively new to command structure, still believed that mission parameters remained stable once established. "New intelligence," he said simply. "The Omega carrying the Cohen Alpha's child represents unprecedented opportunity. Command wants her secured for questioning before any direct engagement. The half-truth would suffice for now. What Command actually wanted was the pregnant Omega secured for experimental purposes, determining whether silver treatments could be administered in utero to prevent wolf genetics from fully expressing in the developing fetus. The thought turned Reed's stomach. "Movement at the west entrance," came another voice through the comm system. "2 females and 1 male cub. The Harrison female and—" "Confirmation, sir. That's the Blackwood-Cohen hybrid. The one showing early shift signs." Reed adjusted his binoculars, focusing on the small group emerging onto a side terrace. A slender woman with chestnut hair, Jennifer Harrison, according to mission files, mate to the Cohen heir, supervised 2 children playing in the autumn sunshine. The boy appeared normal, but the girl... Even through enhanced optics, Reed could see what regular humans would miss. The child moved with unnatural grace for a 3-year-old, her awareness of surroundings far too acute, her small body occasionally betraying subtle indications of partial shifting. "Confirmation on the hybrid," he murmured into his comm, "displaying early manifestation as reported." The implications were significant. Werewolf children typically couldn't shift until puberty, their supernatural genetics remaining dormant throughout childhood. This child product of mixed alpha bloodlines from traditionally rival packs represented something unprecedented. "New vehicle approaching," another team member reported. "Black SUV, diplomatic plates. Stopping at main entrance." Reed shifted his observation to the mansion's circular driveway, where an expensive SUV with distinctive plates had indeed stopped. The driver remained inside, but a passenger emerged. Tall, distinguished-looking man in his 50s wearing an impeccably tailored suit. The Interpack Council representative. Right on schedule. "Interesting timing," Reed observed quietly. "The alliance negotiations proceed despite the internal pack fractures," intelligence reported. Movement at the mansion's main entrance drew his attention. William Cohen, the pack alpha, emerged to greet the council representative with formal werewolf protocol. Right hand extended, left hand open at side to show absence of concealed weapons. The ritual was ancient, predating modern diplomatic niceties. As the two men disappeared into the mansion, Reed's tactical assessment sharpened. The presence of the inner pack representative complicated potential extraction operations significantly. Maintain observation positions, he instructed his team. No engagement without direct authorization. I want real-time updates on all movement between buildings and particularly any vehicles preparing for departure. As Reed continued scanning the estate, a movement near the garage caught his attention. A human man, Paul Westfield, the senator who had unknowingly married into a werewolf bloodline, emerged carrying a small suitcase, his expression tight with contained emotion. "Sir," Vasquez's voice carried unusual urgency through the comm. "New development. We've got movement in the forest beyond the south boundary. Not our people." Reed immediately shifted his observation to the indicated area, enhancing magnification to maximum. For several seconds, he saw nothing. Then a shadow moved against natural forest patterns. Another followed. Then another. "Hostile elements," he said sharply into the comm. "Unknown team establishing positions along southern boundary. At least 6 individuals with tactical gear." "Sir," another team member cut in, voice tight with tension. "Northern boundary as well. I count 4 hostiles moving into ambush positions approximately 200 yards from the mansion's north entrance." Reed's mind raced through implications. Another hunter team operating without coordination? Unlikely, given command's tight control over operations in this region. "Facial recognition engaged through scope systems," Vasquez reported. "Processing. Sir, we have confirmation. 3 identified hostiles match database entries for members of the Argent Group." The information hit Reed like a physical blow. The Argent Group. Not official hunters operating under command structure and established protocols, but mercenaries who sold their services to the highest bidder. Brutal, efficient, and utterly without ethical constraints regarding collateral damage or endangered non-combatants, including children. "Change of mission parameters," Reed said, decision crystallizing with cold clarity. "All teams prepare for potential defensive engagement. The Argent Group has established attack positions around the estate." "Sir?" Vasquez sounded confused. "Defensive engagement? Our mission never included allowing mercenary elements to slaughter supernatural civilians, including children," Reed interrupted sharply. "Whatever command's objectives regarding the Omega and hybrid child, they won't be achieved if the Argent Group turns this estate into a bloodbath." The direction represented significant deviation from established protocols. Reed knew his career likely wouldn't survive this decision, but some lines couldn't be crossed even in service to hunter objectives. "And someone," Reed added grimly, "intercept the senator before he walks into potential crossfire." Paul walked toward his waiting car with the peculiar detachment that follows emotional overwhelm. His goodbye to Tyler had been both heartbreaking and reassuring. The boy concerned about his departure, but accepting Paul's explanation that grown-up things required his attention in Washington for a few days. Now, alone in the crisp autumn air, the full weight of the past 24 hours threatened to crush him. Werewolves. His wife, a werewolf with a mate bond to another male. His son, biologically not his son, but product of that supernatural bond. A hidden daughter with accelerated abilities. Senator Westfield. The voice, male, authoritative, unfamiliar, snapped Paul from his introspection. A man had emerged from the tree line to his right, moving with military precision despite civilian clothing. "My name is Sergeant Marcus Reed," the man continued, stopping at a respectful distance. "I apologize for the unconventional approach, but we have reason to believe you're in immediate danger." Paul's political career had included enough security briefings that he didn't immediately dismiss the warning. "You're not Cohen security," he observed. "Federal?" A faint smile touched the scarred face. "Not exactly, Senator. I represent an organization tasked with monitoring and containing supernatural threats to human safety and security." The blunt acknowledgement of supernatural elements confirmed this was no ordinary security operation. Whatever organization this man represented, they clearly knew about the Cohen family's true nature. "You've been watching the estate," Paul surmised. "For how long?" "Long enough to know you've had quite an illuminating 24 hours, Reed replied with grim understanding, "and long enough to recognize that the current situation is deteriorating toward potential violence that may place you and your son at risk." The mention of Tyler sharpened Paul's focus instantly. "What kind of violence? From whom?" Reed glanced toward the forest line, his posture suggesting awareness of factors beyond Paul's perception. "A mercenary group known as the Argent Organization has established attack positions around the estate perimeter. Their standard operational procedure involves silver-based weapons designed to kill werewolves, with little concern for distinguishing between combatants and civilians." The clinical description sent ice through Paul's veins. "Tyler's still inside. And Diana?" "I know," Reed interrupted, his tone softening slightly. "I have a team working to disrupt their approach vectors, but the situation is volatile. The mercenaries appear to be awaiting some signal or trigger event before initiating their attack." Paul's political training had included crisis management, but nothing had prepared him for processing potential paramilitary attack on supernatural beings, including his son. "Why tell me?" he managed. "What do you want from me?" "Two things," Reed answered with military efficiency. "First, don't leave the estate yet. Your scheduled departure might actually trigger their attack timeline. Second, consider allowing my team to extract you and your son to a secure location while this situation is resolved." The second request immediately raised Paul's suspicions. "Extract us? Away from the Cohen family? To where exactly?" Reed's expression remained professional, but something shifted in his eyes, a flicker of what might have been respect. "To a secure facility where we can provide detailed briefing on the supernatural world you've been thrust into," he said carefully, "including options for protecting your son's welfare during his developmental years before shifting begins." This organization wanted to separate him and Tyler from the Cohen pack, to present options that almost certainly wouldn't align with London's perspectives or Mark's paternal rights. "You hunt them," Paul said, realization crystallizing. "Your organization, you track and what? Eliminate werewolves?" Reed's expression tightened fractionally. "Our mandate is considerably more nuanced than elimination, Senator. We monitor supernatural entities that pose potential threat to human safety, intervene when established boundaries are violated, and yes, in some cases, neutralize immediate dangers to civilian populations." The bureaucratic language couldn't fully disguise the fundamental reality. This man represented an organization that viewed London's family, Tyler's family, as potential threats requiring containment or elimination. The realization should have aligned with Paul's own sense of betrayal regarding London's deceptions. Instead, it triggered unexpected protective instinct, despite his personal turmoil. "And my son?" Paul pressed, watching Reed's expression carefully. "Where exactly does a 5-year-old with dormant werewolf genetics who's harmed no one fit into your threat assessment matrix?" Something like approval flickered in Reed's eyes. "As I said, Senator, our approach is nuanced. Children are never classified as threats, regardless of genetic heritage. Our interest is in providing you, as Tyler's primary human parental figure, with complete information about options available for his development." "These mercenaries," Paul said, deliberately shifting focus, "the ones surrounding the estate, they work for you, for your organization?" Reed's expression hardened. "Absolutely not. The Argent Group are freelance operators who sell their services to highest bidders, often private individuals with personal vendettas against supernatural entities. They operate without ethical constraints regarding collateral damage or non-combatant status. My team is actually attempting to disrupt their attack plan." The distinction seemed genuine, suggesting factional complexity within supernatural monitoring that mirrored divisions in regular intelligence services. "Tyler and Diana need to be evacuated," Paul said, decision crystallizing despite his limited understanding of the situation's full dimensions. "If these mercenaries truly don't distinguish between adults and children, That's why I approached you, Reed confirmed. My team can create secure extraction corridor for both children if you can facilitate their movement to northeast section of the estate grounds within next 30 minutes. But we need someone inside the mansion to coordinate this without creating panic that might trigger premature Argent engagement. And the rest of the family? Paul asked, testing Reed's objectives. London, Mark, the others inside. A flicker of calculation crossed Reed's scarred features. Will provide tactical warning about Argent positions. Adult werewolves have significant defensive capabilities when properly alerted to threats. Our priority remains minimizing casualties, particularly among non-combatants. Before Paul could respond, Reed's head tilted slightly, hand moving to ear in gesture that suggested concealed communication device. His expression hardened instantly. Change of plans, he said, sudden urgency replacing measured negotiation. Argent team is mobilizing. Something's triggered their timeline. His gaze snapped to the mansion, then back to Paul. Get back inside, now. Warn the pack about armed hostiles on the perimeter. Tell them silver ammunition in Wolfsbane. The abrupt shift caught Paul off guard. I thought you wanted... What I want is to prevent children from being caught in crossfire. Reed cut him off, already backing toward the tree line. My team will engage Argent forces to disrupt their assault pattern. Use that time to get the children to central, defensible position away from windows. A muffled crack from the distant tree line decided him, unmistakable sound of suppressed rifle fire that his senatorial security briefings had ensured he could recognize. Paul sprinted toward the mansion's nearest entrance. Tyler was inside, Diana, too. Whatever his feelings about London's deceptions or werewolf politics, those children deserved protection from armed mercenaries. London moved through the forest with preternatural grace, her wolf senses fully engaged despite maintaining human form. The moment Paul had rushed back into the mansion, breathlessly warning about armed mercenaries surrounding the estate, instinct had overwhelmed her emotional turmoil. While the rest of the pack focused on securing the children and establishing defensive positions, London had slipped away to track the threat to its source. Paul's scent trail led her straight to the forest edge, where he'd encountered the hunter. She paused, head tilting as she sorted through the complex tapestry of scents. Paul's familiar cologne and the underlying musk that was uniquely his. The stranger, with notes of gunpowder, wolfsbane extract, and something chemical she couldn't immediately identify. A soft breeze shifted the branches overhead, sending dappled sunlight dancing across the forest floor and bringing new scent information. London froze, every muscle instantly alert. A different group, southeast, perhaps half a mile. Their scent carried subtle differences. Less wolfsbane, more silver, and something else. Something that raised her hackles instinctively. Blood. Old blood, with the unmistakable undertones of wolves killed in violence. Not the welcoming committee I'd have chosen for your introduction to our world, a deep voice observed from behind her. London whirled, cursing herself for allowing distraction to override perimeter awareness. Mark stood 10 feet away, his powerful frame partially concealed by a massive oak, golden eyes gleaming with reflected sunlight. Despite the crisis, her wolf responded instantly to his presence. Recognition, connection, the magnetic pull of their bond transcending circumstance. Heat pooled in her belly, her inner wolf practically purring at her mate's presence despite the danger surrounding them. You shouldn't be here, she hissed, even as relief at his presence washed through her. The children are secure with your father and 3 senior pack enforcers, Mark finished, moving closer with the fluid grace that had always captivated her. I tracked you the moment your scent disappeared from the mansion. Lone wolves make easy targets, London, even ones as capable as you. The rebuke was gentle but deserved. Pack strategy during hunter incursions emphasized pairs at minimum. One to engage, one to escape if necessary. She'd let emotion override tactical training, a potentially fatal error in current circumstances. Paul met with one of them, she said, gesturing toward the lingering scent markers. A professional hunter, but something's off about the interaction. He warned Paul about another group, the ones carrying trophies. Mark's expression darkened, jaw tightening as he processed this information. Factional conflict. It happens sometimes among hunter groups. Unless we're caught in crossfire between them, London countered. moving closer until barely a handspan separated them. The proximity settled something primal in her wolf, allowing clearer strategic thinking to emerge from emotional chaos. Mark's scent enveloped her. Pine forests, cinnamon, and that distinctive male musk that was uniquely his. Her inner wolf whined in pleasure at their closeness despite the circumstances. Paul came back to warn us rather than leaving with the hunter, she continued. That means something. It means he cares about Tyler's safety regardless of personal feelings about our world, Mark acknowledged, surprising her with his fair assessment. His golden eyes softened as they studied her face. He's a good man, London. I've always sensed that in him, even when jealousy burned through me. The admission stunned her. Jealous? You? A rueful smile touched Mark's lips, transforming his warrior's face into something heartbreakingly beautiful. Of course. He had what should have been mine, you, our son, a daily life shared. His hand reached up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, the gentle touch sending electricity down her spine. But hate him? Never. He's loved our son, protected him, given him stability while I couldn't. London's heart swelled with unexpected emotion. This fierce, powerful alpha wolf, capable of ripping enemies apart with his bare hands, possessed a soul more generous than she'd ever fully appreciated. How do you do that? She whispered, leaning into his touch. Do what? His thumb traced the curve of her cheek, golden eyes intent on her face. See so clearly. Find compassion where most would harbor resentment. Mark's expression grew serious, his hand cupping her face fully now. Because I've never forgotten what matters, London. Family. Pack. The future our children represent. His other arm slipped around her waist, drawing her against the solid wall of his chest. Petty jealousies and territorial posturing mean nothing compared to keeping what's precious safe. London felt herself melting into him, her body recognizing its mate even as her mind raced with tactical assessments. This was why their bond transcended physical attraction or political advantage. Mark's soul complemented hers, fierce yet compassionate, tactical yet intuitive. A sudden crash echoed through the forest, distant but distinctive. Gunfire. We need to get back, Mark said, instantly alert to change tactical situation. If they've initiated direct engagement, London was already moving, wolf-enhanced speed carrying her through underbrush with silent efficiency. Mark kept pace easily, the two of them flowing through the woodland like shadows, communicating through subtle gestures and scent markers rather than words. They paused at forest edge, surveying the mansion grounds from concealed position. Security personnel had established defensive perimeter. Williams' experienced pack enforcers coordinating with Mark's Blackwood guards who had arrived with the diplomatic envoy. There, London murmured, indicating movement near the eastern garden where Chad stood with Jennifer and 3 security wolves. Even from this distance, London could read her brother's aggressive posture, the barely contained rage in his stance as he gestured toward the forest line. As they watched, Paul emerged from the side entrance, moving with surprising confidence given the tactical situation. He approached Chad directly, posture suggesting negotiation rather than confrontation, despite their antagonistic history. London focused her enhanced hearing, catching fragments of their conversation. Inside team says they're targeting the Omega specifically, Paul was saying. His political skills evident in his controlled urgency, something about experimental protocols for the pregnancy. Chad's response was lost beneath sudden wind gust, but his body language shifted dramatically. Rage redirected from pack defensive strategy to external threat with laser focus. Sophia, London breathed, understanding clicking into place. The hunters want Sophia and her unborn child. That's their primary objective. Mark's expression darkened to dangerous intensity. Experimentation on pregnant Omegas represents violation of every pack law and hunter ethical code officially recognized by international monitoring bodies. Which explains the hunter factions in conflict, London concluded, pieces aligning with chilling clarity. The traditionalists versus some splinter group, willing to cross lines even other hunters consider forbidden. As this realization settled, London's gaze returned to Paul. the human husband she had deceived for years, whose world had been shattered by supernatural revelations less than 24 hours earlier, who now stood in tactical discussion with her brother, apparently sharing intelligence about Hunter objectives that directly affected pack security. "He chose," she whispered, emotion momentarily overriding strategic assessment. Despite everything, the deception, the mate bond, Diana's existence, he chose to help us rather than joining forces with hunters who could have offered him extraction with Tyler. Mark followed her gaze, his expression softening. Principle over personal hurt, rare quality in any species. His hand found hers, warm and solid in the momentary stillness before inevitable conflict. "If we survive this incursion, remind me to express genuine appreciation for the man who raised my son during years I couldn't." The simple acknowledgement, recognizing Paul's value without territorial posturing or resentment, touched London deeply. Mark pulled her against him suddenly, his mouth capturing hers in a kiss that stole her breath, fierce, possessive, yet achingly tender. "What was that for?" she gasped when he released her. Mark's eyes blazed with golden fire. "Because I love you. Because life is precious and fragile. Because I've waited 5 years to have you fully as mine, and I've refused to wait another minute to tell you exactly what you mean to me." Before London could respond, howls erupted from the western perimeter, the distinctive sound of wolves engaging direct threat rather than warning of potential danger. London's head snapped toward the sound, heart racing. "That's the nursery wing," she gasped, already moving. "Tyler and Diana." Mark matched her pace instantly, both of them abandoning stealth for pure speed as they raced toward the western side of the mansion where their children had been secured with supposedly impenetrable defenses. As they rounded the mansion's corner, the tactical situation came into horrifying focus. 3 black-clad figures had breached the nursery wing's ground floor entrance, while pack security engaged at least 7 others in furious combat. London's wolf surged toward the surface, partial transformation rippling through her before conscious decision as maternal instinct overwhelmed tactical restraint. Mark similarly began to shift beside her, his massive frame bulking with supernatural muscle. Whatever happened next, whatever complex political fallout or personal reckonings awaited, one truth remained absolute. These hunters had targeted their children, had penetrated sacred pack sanctuary where cubs were protected by most fundamental supernatural law. As London and Mark charged toward the embattled nursery wing, a single thought crystallized with perfect clarity in London's mind. They would protect their family, no matter the cost. And when this was over, if they survived, they would build something new, something stronger, not divided between human and supernatural worlds, but bridging them with love, honesty, and respect. Her wolf rose fully to the surface as Mark's hand squeezed hers one last time. Then they were running, shifting, becoming the predators nature had made them to protect what mattered most. Together, Jennifer moved through the eastern section of the forest with confidence that would have surprised anyone who knew her only as Chad's submissive mate. The sounds of conflict echoed from the western perimeter, but her focus remained on the task William had assigned her, checking the escape tunnels that connected the estate to safe houses. A twig snapped behind her. Jennifer didn't turn, didn't startle. Instead, she said calmly, "I wondered how long it would take you to follow me." Chad emerged from the shadows, his expression a complex mixture of suspicion and confusion. "You're too comfortable out here," he observed, circling to face her. "Moving like you can sense things beyond human perception. Maybe I can?" Jennifer stood her ground, the timidity that had characterized their interactions conspicuously absent. In its place was a quiet confidence that seemed to disarm him momentarily. Jennifer took in the sight of him, truly saw him for perhaps the first time in years. Despite his flaws, Chad was magnificent. Tall, powerful, with classic Cohen features that had attracted her from their first meeting. The moonlight filtering through the trees silvered his dark hair and highlighted the sharp planes of his face. "What game are you playing?" Chad demanded, frustration bleeding through his attempt at intimidation. "First the revelation about my medical condition, then your sudden confidence with my father, now this..." He gestured at her stance, the way she held herself. "This isn't the mate I've known for 5 years. No, Jennifer agreed, meeting his gaze directly. It's the mate you never bothered to know. A growl rumbled in Chad's chest, his eyes flashing gold with reflexive dominance display. To his visible shock, Jennifer didn't flinch or drop her gaze in automatic submission. Instead, she smiled, a small, knowing expression that contained years of carefully guarded secrets. Your dominance displays don't work on me, Chad. They never did. She took a step closer, invading his personal space with unprecedented boldness. I played the role your ego needed because the alliance between our packs was necessary. But I've never been the helpless human female you believed you married. Chad's nostrils flared as he inhaled sharply, trying to sort through her scent markers with growing confusion. You smell different. Like pack, but not pack. Like quarter wolf, Jennifer finished for him. My grandmother was full werewolf, the genetics diluted through generations of human marriage, leaving me unable to shift, but with enough enhanced senses to recognize what you are, what you've always been. The revelation struck Chad with physical force, his body actually rocking back slightly as pieces clicked into place. You knew, before our arranged mating, you knew what I was. Of course I knew, Jennifer confirmed, a hint of impatience coloring her tone. Did you think my father would mate his daughter to a wolf without her knowledge? The Harrison line has been strategically interbreeding with werewolves for generations, maintaining just enough supernatural genetics to navigate pack politics without triggering hunter attention. Chad's eyes widened further as implications cascaded. Your supposed ignorance about wolf customs, your submission to traditional pack hierarchy, it was all a performance, Jennifer confirmed, circling him now, roles dramatically reversed as she assessed him rather than being evaluated. One that became increasingly difficult to maintain as your treatment worsened. Had you been a worthy mate, I might have revealed my heritage earlier, but your cruelty confirmed you weren't ready for truth. Chad's expression shifted through multiple emotions: anger, confusion, and finally, surprisingly, a flash of shame. I thought, he began, then stopped. For perhaps the first time in their marriage, uncertainty replaced arrogance in his bearing. You thought I was weak, Jennifer finished for him. That I needed your protection, your control, that my submission validated your dominance. She shook her head, something almost like pity softening her features. Did it never occur to you that strength comes in many forms, Chad? That what you perceived as weakness might be choice? The truth in her words seemed to reach something in him. Chad's aggressive posture eased, his wolf retreating beneath a more thoughtful human expression. Then why, he asked, genuine curiosity replacing anger. Why maintain the deception for 5 years? Why endure my treatment when you could have revealed yourself? Jennifer's expression softened unexpectedly. Because I saw something in you worth waiting for, she said, her voice gentle now. Beneath the arrogance and cruelty, I glimpsed a wolf capable of growth, of evolution. I believed that somehow, someday, you might become worthy of truth. Chad stared at her, genuinely speechless. In 5 years of marriage, Jennifer had never spoken to him with such direct honesty, never revealed thoughts beyond careful compliance with his expectations. And now? He asked, vulnerability flashing beneath his question. Now, Jennifer said, stepping closer until barely inches separated them. I think perhaps you're ready to meet your actual mate. Not the fiction you married, but the woman who's been watching and waiting all these years. A distant howl sliced through the tension between them, the distinctive sound of a wolf in combat. Chad's head snapped toward it, instinct briefly overriding personal confrontation. Go, Jennifer said, her tone softening slightly as she laid a hand on his chest. They need you. Whatever lies between us can wait. The pack facing extinction cannot. For a moment, conflict raged across Chad's features. Pride warring with duty, personal revelation against tactical necessity. Then decision crystallized. To Jennifer's shock, Chad caught her hand where it rested against his chest, raising it to his lips in a gesture of formal respect between equals. This isn't finished, he said, his eyes meeting hers with new awareness. No, Jennifer agreed softly, feeling unexpected heat rise to her cheeks at the gesture. But perhaps it's beginning honestly for the first time. As Chad vanished into the forest, loping toward conflict with lethal grace, Jennifer allowed herself a moment of genuine emotion. 5 years of careful deception had ended in less than 5 minutes of honest confrontation. Whatever happened next, whether they survived the hunter incursion or fell defending pack territory, the artificial constraints of their relationship had shattered beyond repair. In their place lay possibilities neither of them had anticipated when their mating was arranged for political advantage. The potential for relationship built on authentic understanding rather than convenient fiction. Jennifer squared her shoulders and continued toward the escape tunnels, Quarter Wolf's senses alert to hunter movements through underbrush. The pack needed these routes secured. Afterward, if they survived, she and Chad would navigate new territory as equals rather than dominant and submissive. The thought brought unexpected hope despite tactical crisis surrounding them. Even amidst danger and uncertainty, one truth remained clear. Freedom to be one's authentic self was worth any risk. And perhaps, just perhaps, Chad might discover that loving an equal created bonds far stronger than controlling a subordinate ever could. Chapter 8: The Alpha's Choice. William Cohen stood at the tall windows of his study, his powerful frame rigid with tension as he surveyed the grounds of his estate. To the untrained eye, everything appeared normal. Manicured lawns bathed in morning sunlight, staff moving with practiced efficiency. But William's enhanced senses detected what humans couldn't. His security personnel weren't conducting routine patrols. They were establishing defensive positions, communicating through subtle gestures and soft growls that only pack members would recognize. Hunters, on his territory. During what should have been a historic day for the Cohen pack, a soft knock at the door preceded Eleanor's entrance. Despite the crisis, she looked impeccable in a tailored navy dress that highlighted her still striking figure. After 35 years as his mate, she could read his mood instantly. "The Harrington delegation just called from their car," she said, moving to stand beside him. "They'll be here in 15 minutes. Michael says they can't reschedule. The board members flew in specifically for this meeting." William's jaw tightened. The Harrington Group represented the single largest business opportunity in Cohen history, a $500 million development project that would legitimate decades of carefully acquired pack holdings through human business channels. "We can't allow them on the property," he said, voice graveled with frustration. "Not with hunters establishing positions in the eastern woods, not with Diana's condition putting all our cubs at risk." Eleanor placed a hand on his forearm, her touch conveying strength rather than seeking it. "Then you must choose, William. The business alliance we've worked years to secure, or the immediate safety of our pack." Her blue eyes held his gaze steadily. "And you must choose quickly." A commotion from the hallway interrupted them. Chad burst through the door without knocking, his face flushed with barely contained fury. "The east tunnel has been compromised," he reported, his muscular frame vibrating with tension. "Jennifer found signs of recent entry, professional equipment, tactical gear left behind. They've known about our evacuation routes for some time." William's mind processed this information with cold efficiency. The tunnels had been the Cohen pack's most closely guarded secret, known only to blood members and their mates. Their compromise suggested something far worse than random hunter incursion. "Betrayal," he said, the word dropping like a stone between them. "Someone with intimate knowledge of pack security has been working with the hunters." "The question is who?" Eleanor mused, her political mind already cataloging possibilities. A soft chime from Eleanor's phone interrupted them. She glanced at the screen, her composed expression faltering momentarily. "The Harrington delegation just passed the outer gate checkpoint," she announced. "Security didn't stop them because they have the proper clearance codes, which were updated just yesterday." William's golden eyes flashed with genuine alarm. "Who authorized that update?" "You did," Eleanor replied softly. "The digital authorization came from your secure terminal, with your personal access codes." William moved with decisive speed toward the door, already issuing rapid commands. "Chad, Intercept the Harrington vehicles at the inner checkpoint. Full charm offensive, medical emergency requiring quarantine procedures. Get them to the guest house on the north edge. It's furthest from likely conflict zones. And you? Eleanor asked, already reaching for her own phone to coordinate with household staff. William's expression hardened to granite determination, the alpha fully eclipsing the businessman. I'm going to find our traitor before those hunters make their next move. Eleanor found Sophia in the estate's greenhouse, her slender fingers gently tending to the rare wolfsbane orchids that Eleanor had cultivated for decades. The greenhouse's glass walls caught the morning sunlight, casting ethereal patterns across Sophia's delicate features as she hummed softly to herself. She looked so innocent, so vulnerable. Eleanor closed the greenhouse door firmly behind her, engaging the lock with a decisive click that made Sophia startle and turn. "Mrs. Cohen," she said, instinctively lowering her eyes in traditional Omega deference. "I was just admiring the wolfsbane," Eleanor suggested, her voice pleasant despite the steel beneath it. "Interesting choice, given current circumstances." A flush crept across Sophia's cheeks, but Eleanor noted it didn't reach her eyes, which remained watchful, calculating. Not the reaction of a truly submissive Omega caught by surprise. "The flowers are beautiful," Sophia replied carefully. "I didn't realize what they were." "Of course you did," Eleanor contradicted gently, moving closer with predatory grace. "You're a gourmet Omega. Your pack specializes in botanical weapons against rival territories. You would have been trained from childhood to recognize every plant that could harm or heal a wolf." Something shifted in Sophia's posture, subtle but unmistakable. The pretense of submission didn't quite disappear, but it thinned, revealing harder edges beneath. Eleanor circled Sophia slowly, inhaling deeply. Pregnancy produced distinct chemical markers in female werewolves, hormonal changes that no perfume or masking agent could completely disguise from an experienced nose. "You know what's happening outside these walls right now, don't you?" Eleanor asked conversationally. "The timing seems rather convenient." Sophia's heartbeat quickened, the sound clear to Eleanor's enhanced hearing. "I don't know what you mean." "Hunters," Eleanor clarified, almost as if they had inside information about our defenses, our schedules, our vulnerabilities. Eleanor reached out with lightning speed, grasping Sophia's wrist in a grip that appeared gentle but could break bones if she chose. "Your scent, dear. It's missing something crucial." Fear flickered across Sophia's features, genuine for the first time. "I don't—" "Pregnancy hormones," Eleanor finished, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You're not carrying William's child. You're not carrying any child." Rather than crumbling in tearful confession, Sophia's demeanor transformed entirely. Her spine straightened, chin lifting as the submissive Omega persona fell away completely. "Impressive," Sophia said, her voice now missing the deferential softness she'd affected for weeks. "Most wolves can't distinguish those markers until the second trimester. Your nose is exceptional, Mrs. Cohen, as is your timing." Eleanor's grip tightened fractionally on Sophia's wrist. "Who are you really?" "Not a runaway Omega, clearly." A smile curved Sophia's lips, cold and calculated. "Oh, I'm a gourmet, as you correctly identified, just not an Omega." She leaned closer, dropping her voice to a confidential murmur. "I'm Victor's daughter, his first alpha female." The revelation struck Eleanor like a physical blow. Victor Gourmanet's daughter, his heir, masquerading as an abused Omega to infiltrate the Cohen pack through William's protective instincts and unexpected mate bond response. "The mate bond," Eleanor stated flatly. "Another deception?" Sophia's smile widened. "A chemical one, yes. Scent manipulations, hormonal triggers, psychological conditioning techniques. The Gourmet pack has refined them over generations. Your husband never stood a chance once I targeted him." "Why?" Eleanor demanded. "This elaborate charade, the fake pregnancy infiltrating our household, what could possibly be worth such risk?" Sophia's expression hardened, genuine hatred flashing in her eyes. "Territory. Power. Revenge. My father has waited 20 years to repay William Cohen for stealing the Eastern hunting grounds, for killing my mother during the border dispute of 2005. Eleanor's mind raced back through pack history. The fiery beta female who had led the Gormani attack force, who had refused to retreat despite being outmatched, who had charged William directly and died on his claws. William didn't know she was pregnant, Eleanor said softly, understanding dawning. He knew enough, Sophia hissed. He knew she was mated to our alpha. The hunters outside. They're working for me, Mrs. Cohen. Every elite mercenary has their price, and the Gormain fortune has grown considerably during these years of careful planning. A distant crash echoed through the estate, followed by shouting. The attack was escalating. Eleanor moved with alpha speed that belied her years, crossing the space between them and grasping Sophia by the throat with one hand, lifting her partially off the ground despite the younger woman's struggles. You revealed yourself to me before confirming William was neutralized, Eleanor explained calmly. In your elaborate planning, you forgot the most basic truth about the Cohen pack. Sophia clawed at Eleanor's grip, eyes widening as breathing became difficult. Which is? Eleanor leaned close, her refined appearance contrasting with the lethal promise in her voice. William may be our alpha, but I am the one who has protected this family from shadows for 3 decades, the quiet enforcer while my mate handled public battles. With surgical precision, Eleanor's free hand struck a complex nerve cluster at the base of Sophia's skull, not killing her but rendering her instantly unconscious. London ran through the forest, her heart hammering against her ribs as gunfire echoed in the distance. The hunters had breached the inner perimeter faster than anyone had anticipated. William had ordered all non-combatants to the secure room beneath the main house, but London couldn't comply, not when Tyler had been in the West Wing with Diana when the attack began. A familiar scent stopped her mid-stride, blood and silver, a combination that sent ice through her veins. Wolf blood tainted with silver poisoning. Mark's blood. London pivoted, following the scent to a small clearing where fallen leaves had been disturbed by obvious signs of struggle. Spent shell casings glinted in the dappled sunlight, and dark blood stained the forest floor in a trail leading toward a dense thicket. Mark? She called softly, advancing cautiously with her senses on high alert. A pained growl answered her, barely audible but unmistakably his. London pushed through the underbrush to find Mark propped against a massive oak, his powerful frame slumped in unnatural stillness. Blood soaked his left side, the sickly sweet smell of silver poisoning emanating from the wound. London! His voice emerged as a rasp, golden eyes dulled with pain but lighting with undisguised relief at the sight of her. The children! Safe, she assured him, dropping to her knees beside him and examining the wound with gentle fingers. Ethan got them to the secure room. Tyler was asking for you. A smile flickered across Mark's face before pain twisted his features again. London carefully peeled back the shredded remains of his shirt, revealing an ugly wound that glistened with unnatural silver sheen, a hunter's blade specially designed to deposit silver particles that would prevent werewolf healing and slowly poison the victim. How bad? Mark asked, his voice stronger as he fought through the pain. Bad enough, London replied honestly, her medical training taking over as she assessed the damage. Silver toxicity is spreading. You need extraction and treatment within the hour, or... She couldn't finish the sentence, her throat suddenly tight. Mark's hand closed over hers, his grip still powerful despite his condition. Then leave me. Get back to the children. To your human. The mention of Paul sent conflicting emotions crashing through London. Her mate bond with Mark pulsed between them, amplified by crisis and proximity. The primal urge to protect her wounded mate battled with her need to reach her children. I'm not leaving you to die, London said firmly, tearing strips from her silk blouse to create a temporary bandage. That's not an option. Mark watched her work, his golden eyes reflecting complex emotions. Still stubborn, he murmured, a hint of his usual confidence returning. One of many reasons the moon chose us for each other. London's hands faltered momentarily. Mark. I know, he interrupted, understanding in his gaze. Complicated. Human husband. Pack politics. Territorial disputes. None of that changes what exists between us, London. What has always, as if to emphasize his point, he reached up to touch her cheek, leaving a smear of blood across her skin. The contact sent electricity arcing through her system, the mate bond responding with instinctive recognition that transcended rational thought or political convenience. "We need to move," London said, deliberately focusing on immediate survival rather than the emotional tempest his touch had triggered. "There's a secondary medical cache in the groundskeeper's cottage, 200 yards south. Can you walk with support?" Mark nodded grimly, shifting to prepare for the effort required. London positioned herself under his uninjured side, wrapping her arm around his waist as he draped his arm across her shoulder. Together they stood, his massive frame dwarfing her slender one despite her supernatural strength. "The silver slows me," he admitted, frustration evident in his labored breathing. "Makes me too human." "Lean on me," London instructed, taking more of his weight as they began moving through the forest. "That's what mates do, remember? Support each other when one is weakened." The words slipped out before she could censor them, too natural to suppress in this moment of crisis. Mark's sharp glance told her he'd caught both the sentiment and her momentary vulnerability. They moved slowly through the underbrush while maintaining awareness of potential hunter positions. London's enhanced senses remained on high alert, cataloging each snapped twig or shifted leaf around them. "Paul knew," Mark said suddenly, breaking the tense silence between them. "About the hunters. He had advance warning, tried to recruit him against us, offered extraction with Tyler. He chose to warn the pack instead." The information settled in London's chest like a weight, both warming and painful. Paul's decency made her situation even more complicated. She had expected anger when he discovered her deception. Instead, he had chosen to protect her family at risk to himself. "He's a good man," Mark acknowledged, watching her expressions closely despite his pain. "Better than I would have been in his position." London met his gaze, surprised by the genuine respect in his voice. "Yes, he is." "But he's not your mate," Mark added softly, the simple truth hanging between them. "Never has been, never will be." Before London could respond, the distinct crack of a rifle split the air. Mark reacted with supernatural speed despite his injury, throwing his body over hers as they crashed to the forest floor. The bullet whizzed overhead, embedding in a tree trunk with a distinctive silver gleam. "Sniper," Mark growled, his protective instincts overriding personal injury. "Northwest position, approximately 200 yards. London shifted beneath him, her own wolf rising in response to immediate threat. "We need cover. The cottage is still 100 yards south." Mark rolled to the side, grimacing as the movement tore at his wound. Fresh blood soaked through the makeshift bandage, the silver taint now visible as unnatural streaks spreading beneath his skin. "Go," he urged, his voice taking on the alpha command that she'd always found both irritating and compelling. "Get to the children. I'll create a diversion." London stared at him in disbelief. "You can barely stand. What kind of diversion could you possibly—" Her words died as Mark's body began to shift despite the silver poisoning. Bones cracked and reformed, muscle rippled and bulked, dark fur erupting across his skin as he forced a transformation that should have been impossible with silver in his system. "Mark, stop," London hissed, recognizing the catastrophic damage he was inflicting on himself. Shifting with silver poisoning could kill even the strongest alpha. The conflicting biological processes tearing the body apart from within. But he was beyond hearing. The massive black wolf that now stood beside her was clearly in agony, golden eyes bright with pain and determination as he gathered his remaining strength. "Damn you," London whispered, tears stinging her eyes as she understood his intent. He would run, drawing the sniper's attention while she escaped to the cottage. A suicide mission to protect her and, by extension, their children. The black wolf nudged her once with his massive head, a gesture so tender it broke something inside her chest. Then, before she could stop him, he launched himself through the underbrush in the opposite direction from the cottage, deliberately crashing through foliage to create maximum distraction. The sniper took the bait. 3 rapid shots followed Mark's path, the shooter abandoning stealth in pursuit of wounded prey. London remained frozen for 2 heartbeats, torn between following her mate and reaching the medical supplies that might save him. Survival training won out. She scrambled to her feet and ran toward the cottage, using every ounce of supernatural speed to cover the distance in record time. The small stone building appeared untouched by the conflict. London burst through the door, immediately locating the hidden panel behind a landscape painting. The medical cache contained everything needed for emergency werewolf treatment, including the silver extraction kit. London gathered the supplies with frantic efficiency, shoving everything into a backpack before spinning toward the door, only to freeze at the sight of Paul standing in the entrance, a hunting rifle held with unexpected competence in his hands. "Paul," she gasped, momentarily stunned by his appearance. He looked different somehow, harder, more dangerous than the polished politician she had married. "How did you—" "Followed your trail," he said simply, blue eyes taking in her blood-smeared appearance and the medical supplies. "Mark's hurt." It wasn't a question, but London nodded anyway. "Silver Blade. He's creating a diversion so I could get treatment supplies. There's a sniper—" "I know," Paul interrupted, his expression grim. "I took care of him." London stared at her human husband, struggling to reconcile this capable, dangerous man with the political diplomat she thought she knew. "You what?" "Former Navy before politics," Paul explained, checking the rifle's chamber with practiced movements. "Some skills you don't forget. The sniper's disabled." 1,000 questions burned on London's tongue, but time was their enemy now. "Mark won't survive the silver poisoning without immediate treatment. I need to—" "Find him," Paul finished for her, stepping aside from the doorway. "Go, I'll cover you." London hesitated, disbelief and confusion warring with the desperate need to reach Mark before the silver poisoning progressed beyond treatment. Why? After everything, the deception, Diana, the mate bond, why would you help him? Paul's expression softened momentarily, revealing the man she had respected during their marriage. "Because Tyler loves him," he said simply. "Because those children need both their parents. And because," he added with surprising gentleness, "when you thought I couldn't see, your eyes searched for him across every room, London. They have since the day I met you." The quiet observation struck London speechless. Paul had known on some level long before the supernatural revelations forced immediate crisis. "I don't deserve your help," she whispered. "Probably not," Paul agreed, the ghost of his political smile touching his lips. "But we've rarely gotten what we deserve in this marriage, have we? Both of us pretending it was enough when we knew something was missing." He gestured toward the door with the rifle. "Now go find your wolf before he gets himself killed trying to be the hero." London moved toward the door, then paused beside Paul, acting on impulse rather than calculation. She pressed a gentle kiss to his cheek, not passion, but genuine gratitude and respect. "Thank you," she murmured, pulling back to meet his eyes, "for being a better man than either of us deserved." Paul nodded once, emotion briefly visible before he masked it behind tactical focus. "I'll clear a path to the north section. Get Mark to the extraction point by the old well. Ethan's coordinating evacuation from there." London shouldered the medical backpack and stepped through the doorway, her wolf senses already seeking Mark's trail in the forest beyond. Before she disappeared into the trees, Paul's voice stopped her one last time. "London?" She turned, catching something unexpected in his expression, a certain peace beneath the tension of immediate danger. "When this is over," he said quietly, "I want you to be happy, truly happy, not compromised happiness. Both of you deserve that much, at least." The northern watchtower stood silent amid chaos, its stone walls providing temporary shelter as fighting raged across the estate grounds. Chad paced the circular room like a caged predator, muscles bunched beneath his torn shirt, dried blood caking the side of his face from a hunter's grazing shot. "Would you stop pacing?" Ethan sighed from where he sat cross-legged on the floor, methodically checking the silver-resistant combat blades laid out before him. "You're making me dizzy, and we need clear heads if we're going to coordinate the northern defense," Chad snarled, not bothering to hide elongated canines. "We should be out there fighting, not hiding in this damn tower while hunters infiltrate our territory." "Strategic positioning isn't hiding," Ethan countered with maddening calm. "Father ordered us to hold this position for a reason. The northern tunnels connect directly to the safe house where the children have been evacuated." I don't need tactical explanations from a wolf who spends most of his time running from pack responsibilities, Chad snapped, turning to face his younger brother with barely contained fury. While I've been here training, preparing to lead, you've been, what, chasing archaeological curiosities in South America? Dating human women who know nothing of what you are? Ethan set down the blade he'd been inspecting, his relaxed demeanor shifting subtly. Where moments before he'd appeared casually unbothered, something dangerous now glinted in his amber gold eyes. Is that what you think I've been doing all these years? He asked quietly, having adventures while you shouldered the burden of succession alone? Chad's lip curled. What else would you call your convenient absences during every major pack crisis? Your refusal to take a mate despite reaching prime bonding age 5 years ago? My assignments from father that no one, not even you as heir, was permitted to know about. Ethan interrupted, rising to his feet with fluid grace that belied his usual casual slouch. My infiltration of hunter organizations across 3 continents, my tracking of weapons smugglers bringing silver-enhanced ammunition into territories where it could threaten not just our pack, but every supernatural community in the region. Chad stared at his brother, momentary confusion breaking through his anger. What are you talking about? Ethan sighed, running a hand through his dark hair in a gesture of rare frustration. Did you ever wonder why hunter incursions on Cohen territory dropped by 60% over the past decade, while every other major pack faced increasing attacks? Why father seemed unconcerned by my extended absences, despite his obsession with maintaining appearances? Recognition dawned slowly across Chad's features. Father sent you as... what? Some kind of covert operative? Shadow Wolf, Ethan corrected, using the ancient term for pack members who operated beyond territory boundaries, gathering intelligence and eliminating threats before they reached pack lands. All these years, I thought you were just avoiding responsibility, Chad said, genuine hurt beneath the question. Ethan's expression softened fractionally. Security protocols. The fewer who knew, the safer the operation. Even Mother wasn't briefed on specifics, though she guessed enough. He hesitated, then added quietly, and perhaps because I knew what you thought of me. And part of me wanted to prove myself, without your knowledge or approval. Chad absorbed this. And the mate issue? Was that part of your cover too? Something flashed across Ethan's face, a fleeting expression of such profound loneliness that Chad instinctively moved closer. Wolf instincts responding to pack member in distress despite years of rivalry. That was necessary sacrifice, Ethan admitted, turning to face the window rather than his brother. Shadow wolves can't form mate bonds, too dangerous for both parties. The connection creates vulnerability that hunters can exploit. But you've found her, haven't you? Chad asked with surprising insight. Your mate. Ethan's shoulders tensed, confirmation enough. 3 years ago. Hunter family, ironically enough. 5th generation, traditional heritage but progressive viewpoints regarding supernatural coexistence. Chad exhaled sharply, genuine shock replacing lingering resentment. You found your mate in a hunter bloodline? Moon's mercy, Ethan. Shannon Reynolds, Ethan confirmed, finally turning back to face his brother. Her family specializes in treaty enforcement, not extermination. They only target rogues who breach established boundaries. She helped me dismantle 3 major weapons operations targeting our territory last year. Chad stared at his brother, truly seeing him perhaps for the first time in years. Not the irresponsible younger son avoiding duties, but a wolf who had sacrificed personal happiness for pack security, who had found his mate but denied himself the claiming due to loyalty to family and territory. Why tell me this now? Chad asked, genuine curiosity replacing confrontational hostility. Ethan checked his watch, movements precise and economical in ways Chad had never associated with his supposedly carefree brother. Because in approximately 15 minutes, Shannon will be leading her hunter unit through the northern forest boundary to engage the mercenaries targeting our cubs. The blunt assessment caught Chad off guard. Before he could formulate response, Ethan's phone vibrated with incoming message. His expression hardened into something Chad had never witnessed before. Deadly focus, devoid of the casual charm that typically defined him. Shannon's team is in position, Ethan reported, already moving toward the stairs with lethal efficiency. 3 mercenary units converging on northern tunnel entrance. We have approximately 7 minutes to intercept before they breach the evacuation route. Chad followed, instinctively falling into formation beside his brother rather than asserting dominant position ahead. These hunter allies of yours, can they be trusted with knowledge of our evacuation infrastructure? Ethan paused at the stairwell door, meeting Chad's gaze directly. Shannon would die before betraying me or any child under pack protection. Her unit operates under ethical codes that predate modern hunter organizations. Protection of innocence supersedes all other directives. I've been wrong about many things, Chad admitted as they descended the stairs, words coming with difficulty but genuine intent. About you, about what strength looks like in pack leadership. Ethan glanced back, surprise momentarily replacing tactical focus. Careful, brother. That almost sounded like apology. Despite the life-threatening situation awaiting them, Chad felt his lips twitch toward a smile. If we survive this, I want to meet her. This hunter mate you've been hiding. Ethan's answering smile held genuine warmth that transformed his features. If we survive this, I'll even let you give a speech at our claiming ceremony. A short one, he qualified quickly. Preferably written by Jennifer, who actually has social graces. The mention of Jennifer sobered Chad instantly, regret flashing across his features. If I survive this, there are many conversations I need to have, many apologies that may come too late. Ethan placed a hand on Chad's shoulder, not challenging for dominance as they had since childhood, but offering connection that transcended pack hierarchy. It's never too late to become the wolf worthy of the position you seek, Ethan said quietly. William Cohen stood in the elegant conference room that had hosted countless business negotiations throughout his decades building the family empire. Across the table sat Michael Harrington, silver-hailed CEO of Harrington Development Group, flanked by his executive team and legal counsel. 6 humans whose combined financial influence could reshape regional economies and whose $500 million development partnership represented the culmination of Williams' decades-long strategy. I appreciate your flexibility regarding venue change, Williams said smoothly, gesturing toward the conference room that had been hastily prepared when security concerns prevented using the main reception hall as planned. Unexpected maintenance issues at the primary facility. Michael Harrington's shrewd eyes registered polite skepticism. Quite a substantial security presence for maintenance issues, William. I counted at least 12 armed personnel on our way in. William maintained his diplomatic smile while making the most significant decision of his 30-year leadership. The traditional approach would be continued deception, but circumstances had changed dramatically in the past 24 hours. His own mate bond with Sophia had been revealed as elaborate deception orchestrated by enemy Alpha seeking revenge. Perhaps most significantly, his daughter London had finally acknowledged her true mate bond with Mark Blackwood after years of denial. Michael, William said, allowing practiced business persona to fall away as he leaned forward with uncharacteristic directness. I'm about to tell you something that will sound completely implausible, something that violates secrecy protocols my family has maintained for generations. Michael's eyebrows rose fractionally, genuine surprise breaking through his usual negotiator's mask. This property is currently under coordinated attack by paramilitary forces, William continued, ignoring the gasps from junior executives. Not standard corporate espionage or competitive disruption. Armed mercenaries specifically targeting my family for reasons that go beyond business interests. Michael's expression remained carefully neutral, though his heart rate increased slightly, a change imperceptible to humans but clear to William's enhanced senses. Should we postpone signing until security concerns are addressed? Michael asked, his tone suggesting reasonable adjustment to unexpected complication rather than alarm at potential danger. William smiled faintly, appreciating the man's composure. The signing should proceed, William said firmly. In fact, it becomes more urgent given current circumstances. But you deserve to understand exactly what partnership with Cohen Enterprises truly entails. He met Michael's gaze directly, including the nature of the family you're aligning with. With deliberate control, William allowed partial shift to manifest. Just enough supernatural change to be unmistakable but not threatening. His eyes transformed from human hazel to wolf gold, canines lengthening visibly as he spoke. subtle but undeniable evidence that he was not entirely human. Gasps erupted around the table. Only Michael himself remained outwardly composed, though his pulse had quickened considerably. "Werewolf," he said quietly, surprising William with immediate, accurate identification. "Eastern European maternal grandmother," Michael explained, noting William's reaction. "She had certain beliefs and warnings that seemed superstitious until this moment." William allowed his features to return to fully human appearance, impressed by Michael's composure and unexpected familial knowledge. "The Cohen family has maintained this territory for 7 generations," William explained. "Our business enterprises provide legitimate framework for protecting lands critical to supernatural communities throughout the region." Michael leaned back in his chair, studying William with new appreciation. "You're taking extraordinary risk sharing this information. Why now, after what must have been decades of careful secrecy?" William glanced toward the windows, where distant flashes of gunfire could occasionally be glimpsed at forest edges. "Because the old ways of absolute separation between human and supernatural worlds are failing. Because strategic alliances with humans who can understand our needs and respect our differences represent better path forward than continued isolation." The personal admission, so unlike William's usual carefully calculated statements, reflected profound shift in his approach to leadership. London's courage in acknowledging her true mate despite political complications. Ethan's years of sacrifice while building bridges between traditionally opposed communities. Even Chad's growing recognition that strength required adaptation. For several moments, silence filled the elegant conference room as Michael conferred quietly with his executive team. William waited, aware that centuries of supernatural governance policy hung on this human's response. Finally, Michael turned back to William. "My grandmother told stories of a pact her village made with the local werewolf pack in the old country. Protection in exchange for territory, respect. She claimed it saved the village during 3 wars and countless hardships." His lips curved slightly. "I always thought they were bedtime stories designed to make a scared child feel safer in a dangerous world." Michael's gaze sharpened. "The mercenaries attacking your property, they're targeting your family specifically, including children?" "Yes," William confirmed, surprised by the sudden protective fury that flashed across the businessman's face. Michael stood abruptly, startling his team. "Then we sign immediately and activate the security provisions in Section 23. He turned to William. "Section 23 authorizes immediate deployment of Harrington Group's private security forces for property protection once partnership is established. 300 highly trained operatives with military backgrounds, currently on standby at our corporate headquarters 20 miles from here." Understanding dawned across William's features. Human reinforcements. Significant numbers that could turn the tide against the mercenary forces currently threatening Pac territory. "You would commit your security personnel to this situation?" William asked, momentarily taken aback by the unexpected offer. Michael's expression hardened with surprising ferocity for a human businessman. "My company has never and will never partner with anyone who targets children for any reason. Corporate ethics aside," he added with grim determination, "I have 7 grandchildren of my own. The line is absolute." For the first time since the crisis began, William felt something like hope bloom in his chest, not just for immediate tactical advantage, but for future possibilities this human's response represented. True alliance based on shared values rather than merely convenient business arrangement. "If I may ask," Michael said as his team gathered their materials with efficient haste, "why take this risk with us? Centuries of secrecy broken in single business meeting." William considered the question carefully. "I once believed security came from separation and secrecy," he said finally, "from careful management of appearances and strict adherence to traditional boundaries. Recent events have forced reconsideration of that approach." "Your family situation," Michael suggested with surprising insight. "The young couple with the children, your daughter and her partner. They seemed caught between worlds when we saw them earlier." William's eyebrows rose, impressed by the human's observational skills. "My daughter denied her true mate for years because our traditions and territorial disputes made their union politically complicated," William acknowledged. She maintained careful separation between worlds, supernatural heritage and human marriage, believing division created safety rather than vulnerability. And now? Michael prompted gently. Now she has chosen authenticity over appearance, William said, unexpected emotion coloring his voice. Truth over convenient fiction, and in doing so, demonstrated courage I should have shown long before crisis forced my hand. Michael nodded thoughtfully. My grandmother had another saying about werewolves, that they mate for life with bonds that transcend political boundaries or cultural differences, that when the moon chooses, even the most stubborn wolf eventually submits to her wisdom. William stared at the human businessman, momentarily speechless at hearing ancient werewolf proverb from unexpected source. Your grandmother was a wise woman, he finally said, and apparently knew our kind far better than most humans. She married one, Michael replied casually, gathering his coat as his security detail indicated transport was ready. Chapter 9. Moonlit Reconciliation. London stood at the edge of the moonlit garden, the night air cool against her skin as autumn leaves danced around her feet. The massive oak tree that had witnessed 7 generations of Cohen pack ceremonies spread its branches overhead, creating dappled patterns of silver light across the flagstone path. Behind her, the mansion hummed with activity as pack members implemented the revolutionary council structure her father had proposed. Ahead, the forest beckoned with a primal call that spoke to her wolf, now stronger than ever as the full moon's power neared its peak. I thought I might find you here. Paul's voice came steady from the garden path. He approached with measured confidence, though something had shifted in his bearing since the Hunter crisis. An awareness of supernatural realities that had integrated into his understanding rather than remaining mere intellectual acknowledgement. The oak was always my thinking spot, London admitted, turning to face the man who had been her husband for 7 years. Even as a child, when pack politics became overwhelming, I'd escape here. Paul smiled, the expression holding genuine warmth despite everything. And they don't come much more complicated than this, do they? The simple understanding in his voice, free from bitterness, touched London deeply. This was Paul's true strength, she realized. Not political power or strategic acumen, but fundamental decency that transcended personal hurt when principles required a greater perspective. I spoke with William, Paul continued, stopping a respectful distance away. The council position he's offered, human liaison between the supernatural community and political world. It's important work. Work I could do effectively, I think. You'd be perfect for it, London agreed sincerely. Your political experience, your integrity, your ability to navigate complex situations without losing sight of underlying principles. Exactly what's needed as boundaries between worlds become increasingly permeable. Before London could say more, another presence made itself known, not through sound or sight, but through the indescribable pull that had haunted her for 5 years despite all attempts to deny its power. Mark emerged from the forest edge, his powerful frame silhouetted against darkened trees. He remained at a distance, making no attempt to approach or interrupt, simply acknowledging his presence while giving London space. The contrast between the two men struck London with painful clarity. Paul dignified, contained, his emotions carefully managed beneath political polish. Mark's powerful, elemental, his connection to primal nature evident in every line of his body, despite maintaining human form out of respect for the conversation unfolding before him. Her husband, her mate. The impossible choice that wasn't really a choice at all, but recognition of truth her wolf had always known. You never loved me, Paul said quietly. No accusation in his voice, simply acknowledgement of reality. Not the way you love him. London flinched slightly, instinctive denial rising to her lips before honesty reasserted itself. I loved you, she corrected gently, just not the way mate bond demands. Not with the soul-deep recognition that transcends rational choice. Paul nodded, I felt it. Not consciously, perhaps, but some part of me always sensed the reservation at your core. The piece of yourself held separate despite genuine effort to build something meaningful between us. I'm sorry, she whispered. You deserved a complete partner, not a divided half of someone always torn between worlds. Paul's smile held surprising gentleness. Perhaps, but I received a gift many would never experience. 7 years with an extraordinary woman who expanded my understanding of reality beyond anything I could have imagined. A son I love beyond biology or supernatural considerations. He glanced toward Mark. An opportunity to witness a connection that defies conventional understanding, a bond that persevered despite political obstacles that would have destroyed lesser connections. London stared at him, genuinely shocked by a perspective that transformed betrayal into opportunity. How can you be so accepting after everything you've learned, everything I concealed? Paul considered this, diplomatic mask falling away. When I was with Reed, watching him calculate Diana's value as an experimental subject rather than a child deserving protection, I recognized a fundamental truth beyond supernatural revelations or personal betrayal. He gestured toward the mansion where their children slept. Some principles transcend species designation or personal hurt. Protection of innocent children, respect for bonds that exist beyond rational explanation. What happens now? She asked, the question encompassing enormous complexity. Their legal marriage, Tyler's custody, Diana's acceptance, pack politics. Paul's eyes moved beyond her to where Mark stood, silent acknowledgement passing between the men who might have been bitter rivals. Now you follow your heart, he said simply. Not duty or obligation or political convenience, but the truth your wolf has always recognized. And Tyler has 4 parents who love him beyond biology or supernatural considerations, Paul replied without hesitation. Mark as biological father whose connection deserves recognition after years of separation. Me as the father who raised him and whose commitment remains unchanged. You as mother. And Diana's mother through connection that makes them siblings. The comprehensive perspective, focusing on children's welfare rather than adult claims, demonstrated exactly why Paul had been an essential part of Tyler's life, regardless of biological connection. Paul reached into his pocket and withdrew his wedding band, the silver gleaming in moonlight. Follow your heart, he said simply, placing it in her palm with gentle finality. Build something authentic for yourself and children who deserve parents united in purpose rather than divided by political necessity. London closed her fingers around the cool metal, emotions too complex for simple categorization. Thank you, she whispered, for everything you've been to Tyler, to me, for integrity that transcends species designation. Paul smiled. Save some of that gratitude for the council meetings. I suspect human supernatural diplomacy will require considerable patience on all sides. The gentle humor offered a bridge between complicated past and potential future. London found herself smiling in return, grateful beyond words for the dignity with which this man had faced supernatural revelations that had shattered his reality. Paul stepped back. I'll check on Tyler, he said, practical focus providing natural conclusion to their conversation. The council meeting starts in an hour. With that, he turned and walked back toward the mansion, shoulders straight despite the emotional weight London knew such an exit must require. For a long moment after Paul disappeared, London remained motionless beneath the ancient oak, processing the enormous transition their conversation had represented. Then, drawing a deep breath that filled her lungs with autumn air, she turned toward the forest edge, where Mark waited. He's an extraordinary man, Mark observed quietly as London approached, facing supernatural revelations with dignity few humans could maintain. Yes, London agreed simply. No need for pretense between true mates. He deserves happiness beyond a politically arranged marriage that could never provide true completion. Mark said nothing, allowing space for complex emotions despite the supernatural certainty their mate bond provided. This was the essence of what made him her perfect match. Strength that never required her weakness, confidence that never demanded her submission. Diana asks for you constantly, London said, focusing on their daughter. She's finally sleeping through the night without transforming accidentally. Tyler's presence seems to stabilize her abilities somehow, sibling connection providing an anchor her accelerated development previously lacked. Mark's expression softened at mention of their children, paternal tenderness transforming his warrior features. They belong together, he said quietly. As we always have, despite circumstances forcing separation, neither natural connection nor supernatural bond ever truly accepted as permanent. London closed the remaining distance between them, years of careful restraint falling away as their mate bond hummed between them with physical presence that transcended rational thought. Mark remained perfectly still, allowing her to determine the parameters of their reconnection despite the obvious effort such restraint required from an alpha wolf whose every instinct demanded immediate reclaiming after years of forced separation. "I'm sorry," London whispered, "for denying what my wolf always knew despite political complications, for the years you lost with Tyler, for Diana having to hide, for everything my fear cost us." Mark's powerful hands cupped her face with gentleness that belied his warrior strength, his touch reverent despite the 5 years of desperate hunger that had built within both their wolves. "No apologies necessary between true mates," he murmured, golden eyes holding hers with emotion that transcended mere passion. "You did what circumstances required to protect everyone involved. Tyler, your human husband, both our packs. Your intentions were never selfish. Even when political necessity created pain neither of us deserved." The understanding, so different from resentment, reminded London why the moon had chosen Mark as her perfect match. His strength had never required her submission to feel validated. "What happens now?" she asked, the question encompassing their relationship, the children's future, pack politics, everything. Mark's hands remained gentle against her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones with tenderness that balanced the passionate connection humming between them. "Now we build something authentic," he said, "for ourselves, for our children, for packs that deserve genuine alliance rather than artificial boundaries maintained through political fiction." "Together," London agreed, the simple word containing a lifetime commitment beyond mere verbal declaration. Their mate bond required no external validation, their connection established through forces older than pack politics despite human complications temporarily forcing separation. Mark's answering smile transformed his warrior features, golden eyes warming with emotion that balanced the passionate intensity naturally existing between them. "Together," he confirmed, the word carrying weight beyond simple syllables. As if acknowledging the pivotal moment, the full moon emerged from cloud cover that had temporarily obscured its radiance. Silver light bathed them in ethereal glow that spoke to their supernatural heritage, blessing a reunion that forces older than human politics had always ordained. When Mark finally lowered his head to capture her lips with his, the kiss contained perfect balance of tenderness and passion, restraint and hunger, patience and need that defined the connection between true mates whose reunion transcended mere physical attraction. London's arms wrapped around his neck as his encircled her waist, their bodies fitting together with familiar rightness no amount of separation could diminish or political complication could permanently deny. The ancient oak spread protective branches above them as forest creatures stirred in unconscious response to the supernatural energy their reunion generated. Within the mansion, pack members and human allies continued implementing the revolutionary council structure that would forever change their governance. But here, in this moment between civilization and wilderness, London and Mark reaffirmed a connection that forces older than pack politics or territorial disputes had ordained, despite human complications temporarily forcing denial. The wolf moon watched from above, silent witness to a reunion it had blessed. London didn't need supernatural confirmation to recognize the significance of the moment unfolding beneath the ancient oak. Some choices changed everything that followed.